Evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Online Darts Fallout Bar as we reach the end of day 5 of the Betfred World Matchplay. We are motoring through in my opinion, the best week in the darting calendar. I am Dan Simpson, joining you once again. We're falling into a bit of a pattern here. This evening, though, a new face this week, but not a new face to the Fallout Bar. I am joined by Mr. Gerwen Evans. Gerwen, how are you, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you, Dan. Yes, nice to join on Matchplay week. I agree. I think a week in Blackpool is just what not just the darting calendar, but what everybody needs. And it's the tournament sort of shaping up nicely now as we sort of go into the second half of the week. Then
it certainly is. I'm in a very privileged position because every time we had an advert break through tonight's broadcast, I spent that time very productively packing my suitcase because I am off to Blackpool very, very soon. And I'm quite excited about some of the games that I'm going to get to see. Evening, everyone in the chat room. We're busy in there already. It is a hot topic. I think everybody knows that I've suffered, along with the rest of the Northeast Darts contingent, a bit of an upset to us. It wasn't really an upset in terms of the bookies, but an upset for us up here as we did see Chris Doby going out. Everyone's mentioned that already, but Malachi's in, Kevin is in, Chris is in as well. If you are watching the chat room, please feel free to get involved as we go through. We're going to break down the action from tonight, and then we're going to look ahead to tomorrow and see what we think is going to happen there. Quick shout as ever, because we have been putting these Fallout shows out as a bit of a bonus to those of you who listen as an audio podcast. So that the Fallout Bar has been coming through all of the big podcast networks this week. So hello to all of you who are listening tomorrow afternoon, the next day, whenever you are choosing to catch up with us. Good evening, good afternoon, or good night to you, wherever the time is. We'll start at the beginning and work our way through it as we always do. Now, this opening game, and I tell you what I will do just before is right up until the last game of this evening. So I'm now 7 out of 8 for predictions for the last 2 days. So the first 3 I got well predicted. So those who have been following my predictions, I'll take that moment to just bask in a little bit of glory early on in the night. And I mean, if I'm honest, Gerwen, I'll be very honest. I'll be blunt. In fact, this wasn't a game that I was particularly looking forward to. For me, it over-delivered what I was expecting, especially from the 11-5 winner, Mr. Andrew Gilding, who over-delivered considerably, I think, on what a lot of people, this is a man that, people were backing to not make this tournament with 2 Players' Championships to go. And he finds himself in a quarter-final, having performed very well this evening. What did you make of this one?
Yeah, it was one of those games where sort of expecting 2 solid players, sort of not much difference in the rankings, a similar style maybe in being slightly slower than most players these days. And it sort of had a feeling where it would go long or go deep in legs and either player could win it. I wasn't, and this is no disrespect to Andrew Gilding, he's a good player, but I wasn't sort of expecting the numbers he threw tonight to come on the stage because, as you said, he's a almost last minute entrant, came through the back door, bit lucky in a way, but then to sort of chuck in that performance, he's sort of taken the chance with this chance he's got this week with both hands and making the most of it. As in, it's Matthijs could probably be a bit disappointed because he'd have seen the draw and he was probably gone, okay, I fancy this. I can make the last 8 here. Once you're in the last 8, yes, you've got to raise your game again because the caliber of opponent is better, but the nerves are also are higher because there's that much more money and that much more riding on the game. So I think Gilding obviously delighted to get through the last 8, and Matthijs probably thinking, probably let that one slip. Probably should have done a bit better.
Yeah, it was a very strange old game. It's not very often at this stage in the match play that we get a game where over 50% of the legs were breaks of throw. You know, we had 9 breaks of throw here in 16 legs, which does show that, you know, whilst the scoreline looks very dominant from Andrew Gilding, it is probably a generous scoreline, isn't it? But, you know, and those breaks, that sheer vast amount of breaks of throw show that. I mean, the first 3 legs that we got were breaks of throw, and then they managed to settle a little bit, and then they held for a while, and then we had a real run again of breaks of throw, and neither player could really establish a rhythm in terms of, you expect almost when you see a score of 11-5 that there's a period in the game where somebody dominates and takes a chunk, you know, takes 4 or 5 legs on the spin, and that isn't what happened at all. But I feel like we're gonna use the phrase "doing the right things at the right time" a lot this evening. Probably 3 of the 4 games we're going to be able to sneak that adage in. But I think there was some remarks that we made yesterday about players who, and I think Andrew Gilding did this well, is that he won the important moments in the match. You know, the level was fairly similar, and it was quite back and forth in the way the game swung. But he just seemed to win where it really mattered and just pick those important legs up, didn't he?
Yeah, that was it. And sort of, he went to 7-2 up, and I think he almost panicked then, thinking, I shouldn't be 7-2 up, and let Ratajski back in. But then that, the 13th leg, I think it was, sort of to break Ratajski's mini comeback, to make it 8-5. That was, to me, sort of pivotal, really, because had Ratajski brought it back to 7-6, he could well have gone on to win the game. But yeah, Gilding just, as you say, just did the right thing and hit the double at the perfect time, really, just to keep his nose in front. And yeah, even though the scoreline suggests a comfortable victory, I don't think it probably wasn't an 11-5 game, really. But obviously, he'd be delighted and chuffed to make it through to the last 8.
Yeah, definitely, and it does Andrew Gilding no harm whatsoever, because it's dragging him further and further up that order of merit. That puts him up to 18th as we go, or sort of live in play. So, but a really good result for Andrew Gilding again, and without repeating it too much, but a man that many thought wouldn't make it to this tournament, and then within a few days he seems to have found a level that's very consistent. 50% on the doubles. I thought he was very, very good, very steady, and it makes for. We'll talk a little bit later about quarterfinals, but it makes for a very interesting quarterfinal. And we do have our man in the venue, Phil Bars, was speaking to all of the players tonight. Don't forget, folks, we will give you some snippets. We'll give you some little bits of interviews. All of the interviews are available, as always, in full on our YouTube channel. Please make sure you are subscribed to access those. We'll hear a little bit. We hear a lot more from other players, but we've got a very short clip from Andrew Gilding. So let's see what he made of it.
Well, what was it? Michael Van Gerwen called me the assassin. So hopefully, yeah, obviously, that's what makes him a winner, isn't it? He's going to be furious.
I'm not sure what anyone's furious about, so you probably might want that. That's maybe an incredibly good strategy by Phil Bars to encourage you all to go and look at the longer format of the interview on our YouTube channel and get the background on that. But yeah, definitely, Andrew Gilding. We know that Andrew Gilding can turn up. I know we do have a repeat of that UK Open final that Andrew Gilding won. So, Andrew Gilding has form for beating Michael Van Gerwen in a major event on a big stage. It's not only that it can happen, it has happened. So it could, will we see repeat or revenge? We don't know. Quick shout out, because we've got a lot more involvement in the chat room, a few more folks in now. Jack is in, Ryan's in as well, as is Kevin, and Anthony is joining us from all the way over the pond in America. Good evening to everybody. If you are watching along and want to get involved in the chat room, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We do have a little trick that we pull where we don't let you comment and get involved unless you are subscribed. So if you are struggling to do so, please do, because later in this show, we're going to talk about some predictions and get your views on what's going to happen tomorrow. So that is our first quarter finalist, Andrew Gilding, which brought us on to another game that, so when I say that I wasn't particularly excited about that first game and I had struggled to motivate myself for it, quite the opposite for this one. I was really, really looking forward to this. And I mean, feel free, folks, to go back and watch the show yesterday when a certain bald member of the team presenting the show pointed out that he thought Rob Cross was going to turn up and throw some absolute banger in tonight, because I just thought he was due and was playing his way into the tournament well. And 107 average from Rob Cross. Ryan Searle did very little wrong here, Carowin, but what a performance from Voltage.
Yeah, I think you sum it up perfectly there, actually, as in Ryan Searle didn't do much wrong. It just, Rob Cross was on one of those nights that everybody who's ever held a dart dreams of having, where everything you throw lands perfectly and the doubles go in and you hit the 180s. Yeah, it was sort of vintage Rob Cross, and it's good to see it. I think a Rob Cross hitting 105, 106 plus averages is great for that, because he's probably one of those who can push these top boys all the way on a regular basis and can compete at the very highest level. So when he's putting in these performances, I think it'll push the likes of MVG, Luke Humphreys, Luke Littler, Gerwen Price. It'll make all of those boys raise their games as well. And it just lines us up for some absolute quality darts, and hopefully for Rob that he can reproduce this form in the quarterfinal. And I wouldn't put it against him going all the way with form like that.
No, and he has been one of the form players this year. I think the Premier League campaign, that really high level form that we've seen from him, it just came about 5 weeks too late before he hit that rhythm of that really, really consistent high performance. We know that the game that Rob Cross has got in him. We know he can turn it on in Blackpool as well. But so a genuine pleasure to watch that. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyable game. And yeah, I think Ryan Searle, somebody made a comment just in our little WhatsApp group earlier on about, Ryan Searle becoming a little bit of suffering from where Chris Doby was maybe a year or two ago, where you turn up, you do everything right, but you just run into someone who's playing the best darts they've played for a while. And what can you do? If someone's continually pummeling you with 11 darters, what hope have you got? You're going to really struggle, especially to break their throw. Is a thankless task. Once again, we can hear a little bit from Rob Cross, so let's see what he made of the evening before we talk any further on it.
I'm not too sure. Sometimes I still feel like I ain't got control of them, when I throw them. But at the same time, tonight, look, it's there when I need it, and that's all I can ask for at the minute. I'm sure there's going to be one point, maybe soon, maybe in the next 6 months, probably in the next 6 months, where I'm going to feel that I'm going to have to change that up. It'll probably be World Championship, because you've got 2 weeks off and you're going to think to yourself, right, I'm going to put a bit of time in now. And look, I'm just lucky to stand where I am. I'm really grateful to still be in and play the game as well as what I have.
Do you feel that next major is now closer than it's ever been?
I don't know. It's probably like one of the first years I haven't really got one on my ranking, whether it be the Europeans or the Worlds or the Matchplay. It's a little bit weird, but the rankings never looked as good either at the same time. I think I've just turned into more of a complete player, a more consistent player. I've been getting better over 2 years. And if we probably look for the last, I don't know, maybe 9 months, something around that, I think I'm just getting better. If that continues, then yeah, hopefully we rule the roost. But that's where I want to be. look, just enjoy the game. Go up there, enjoy it, put everything into it. It's a world match play, and I love this tournament. I always love this tournament. Now I've won it, I probably don't need to win it, but I want to win it again, you know. So everything's great. Everything's great, and just go out there and enjoy it. It's a great crowd too.
Very positive. He seems to be in a very good mindset. But I'm a big fan of Rob Cross. I think he approaches the game in a very, very good manner. You know, I think that everything about the way that he plays the game is great. You know, it's good for the sport, and it does set up though a very, very, very tasty clash in the next round with Michael Smith, doesn't it? And we'll come to Michael Smith and talk on him a bit later on. But
sorry to interrupt you. Two things I picked up from his interview there. One, I wish I could throw 106 average if I wasn't in control of my darts.
Yeah, I don't know if he's not in control of them. I don't know what that says about the way I play. Good
exactly.
grief.
And secondly, I thought it was very interesting, sort of saying the rankings have never looked better, even though he hasn't got a major. It does prove that consistency is key in any sport, but especially in darts, where if you can perform the same averages, you'll go deep in tournaments, and it proves you don't have to win majors to be fighting in the top 6, top 8 in the world. You just got to keep that level of consistency. And yeah, the way he's talking, he's saying the right things in the interview. He's bubbly, he's happy. As in, if he can perform, he could easily win this match play.
Yeah, and you get the impression as well that the ranking's going to continue to go. You know, I was just having a quick look at the at what he's defending, and realistically, he's defending virtually nothing. You know, a few grand here and there, but he's only defending 7.5 at the Grand Prix. He's defending 6 at the European Championships. He's defending 12.5 at the Grand Slam. It's a real opportunity when he's not defending money that between now and November, when we get to Minehead, Rob Cross could make huge strides away from everybody else. So, we know he's not going to get to world number 1 because he can't. The maths doesn't reach. But when he's not defending, other people are going to have big chunks of money dropping off their ranking. Michael Van Gerwen has got this title on his ranking. I know he's still in it, but there's lots of people defending big sums of money this year, and he's and then even beyond that, he is defending a lump. Rob Cross, he's defending a lump in Minehead. He's got 50 grand on his ranking defending the Players' Championship finals and 35 at the World Championships. But between now and November, it's almost all ranking money that he's picking up. Yeah. It's a really positive outlook, and certainly this tournament in isolation looks very, very positive for Rob Cross. So, this was a strange old game, wasn't it? What an odd, peculiar game this was between Michael Van Gerwen and Joe Cullen, because it didn't go the way I thought it was. I picked Michael Van Gerwen to win. I thought he was going to come and blow Joe Cullen away. And he threatened it, but not really with Michael Van Gerwen's level of darts. More that Joe's form ebbed and flowed and peaked and troughed throughout this game, something rotten. And there was moments of utter brilliance from him, but they were just in such short spells that he just couldn't make an inroad. And when he got those opportunities, I said we're going to use this phrase a lot tonight, and we are, about doing the right things at the right time. But it's almost the reverse in this, I think, in that it wasn't just... I thought Michael just went about his business, and I thought he just held his throw well and broke when Joe allowed him the opportunity to. But then when opportunities came up, Joe just wasn't able to take them. He wasn't able to do the right things at the right time and really put pressure onto Michael Van Gerwen. I think that's where, we know that Michael is a little bit fragile. We know that his action isn't where he's comfortable with it. And I think the only way someone's going to get at him is to put him under pressure. And that just didn't happen here, did it?
No, and I think the 18th leg summed Joe Cullen up in that match for me, really, when from 280, he scored 84 and 6 darts. Where had he scored big there, Michael Van Gerwen struggled to get over the line in that leg, and he could have broken him, but he left himself on 1-4-6 on his own throw, and it was a frustrating performance from Joe Cullen. I don't want to say it's sort of what we've become accustomed to this year, because that sort of feels a bit disrespectful to Joe, but it does feel like he's leaving himself too much work to do. Like 3-0 down early on, I thought, he's going to get steamrolled here. Then, okay, he got back, had a chance to make it 5-all. All of a sudden, from 6-4, it becomes 9-5, and you think, well, that's match now. But then again, he gets it back to 9-8. But then, when it matters, and even in the last leg of the game, I think he missed 6 or 7 darts to win the leg, and I think you'd have broken Michael there, throwing to make it 10-all, and then, as you know, in sort of sudden death, it becomes a bit of a lottery. But yeah, it's just nothing against Michael Van Gerwen.
There were 3 opportunities for Joe Cullen in that match to hold his darts to level up the game, and that they're the right things. That's what you need to do. That if you want to compete at this level, it's not, it's another thing altogether to attack the darts of your opponent and look to steal eggs. And he did break Michael in 4 times throughout the match, but there were 3 opportunities that he had to level that game up and put Michael under pressure and go into the break level, and he wasn't able to hold his throw on those occasions. And I think that's what cost Joe the match eventually.
Sorry, you go.
No, I was going to go into to hear from Michael Van Gerwen. So if you've got anything first, or we can listen to Michael and then we can go from there.
Michael's more important than me.
Not to me.
Oh, thank you.
Let's hear from him anyway.
No, if I have to think like that, I have to have a lot of revenges every day, every week. No, I don't think like that. We all know Andrew is a good player, and he's probably one of the most underestimated players on the tour. When he's on it, he can be really dangerous. But I need to make sure I'm going to give him everything, and I think the form is going to suit me. Of course, it's pace me, but I think I got enough experience to deal with that situation. But I played him so many times. I got the experience. If I'm not ready for that, then you're also not ready to win the title. So you need to make sure you believe in your own ability.
I'm very standard. I think he has been quite generous in his praise of Andrew Gilding. He seems desperate to block the purchase of that bungalow. Michael Van Gerwen is the bungalow hunter this week. He's going to try and block that bungalow from Andrew Gilding. But he seems to be talking. He's underplaying his own chances. I think when he's downplaying the fact that he's going to go into this game a very heavy favourite. And he's the one talking up Andrew Gilding, and he's the one saying, it can go either way. But an interesting approach. We've talked a lot about the analysis of the way that he's presenting himself these days. It's not in the same way that he used to present interviews. There were a few years ago, Michael Van Gerwen, when asked that question, would have said, "Of course, I'll beat Andrew Gilding. I'm the best player in the world. Of course, I will beat him. There is nobody better than I." That narrative's changed slightly. But again, it's a game I'm interested to see, because there's just a lot that can happen. There's a lot that can happen in that game. They could both have a complete stinker. They've both had stinkers, recently in the calendar. They not round where I live, Malachi. You go to the northeast, you can pick a bungalow up for a Euro Tour win. Never mind. You come to Teesside, you'll get a bungalow for a Euro Tour event. Never mind the World Championships. But really, really exciting. And I believe that was it, wasn't it? 3 games tonight. That's all we had, and we'll move on to tomorrow. I'm gonna have to talk.
We'll have to mention it, as in, yeah.
Oh man, I was all prepped. My Newcastle shirt's over there, and I there was half a chance that tonight we kicked off this show with 15 minutes before we went live. There was potential that I was in my Newcastle shirt. welcoming everybody to the Chris Doby Fallout Show, where we're going to talk about the Chris Doby World Match Play. And so I'll tell you what, and I take some blame for this, but last year I was really excited about travelling to Blackpool and watching Chris Doby play in the match play. And the day before I travelled, he got beat, and I didn't get to see him in the match play. And as I'm packing my bloody suitcase this year, that happens again. But being, calling it down the middle, being the unbiased analysis that I offer. A thoroughly entertaining game. I think, if you were a neutral watching this game, whilst we didn't see, two players averaging 105 and knocking bells out of each other, there were some very spectacular moments in it. It again, it was really, really strange. I felt like it was a bit, it was far away from Chris at the start, and he went 4-0 down. And then if you'd have told me at 4-0 down that he was going to get several opportunities and darts to level this game up and then maybe go on, then I would have said you bonkers. And that's exactly what happened, but too little too late, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, isn't it? I know he did close the gap from that 4-0 deficit, but going down 4-0, you're sort of chasing throughout, really, and he couldn't really put a run of enough legs back to back to sort of close that gap enough. As in, Chris almost needed a 3 or 4 leg run himself just to sort of cancel out what Michael did early on. But yeah, as you say, not the huge averages we can see both these players throw, but I think sometimes having a low 90 average battle is just as entertaining, because a missed double or a missing a treble just has such a crucial part in the game. But no, as a neutral, it was very enjoyable. As in, I probably would have liked Chris Doby to go through myself, just so that you could have seen him play at the Matchplay.
This is it.
Anything, isn't it? But
I've been lucky. I've seen Chris play in a few. I've seen him play I've seen him play at Minehead, and I've seen him play in the Premier League, and I've seen him play at the Metro Arena, and I've done it. But I haven't. The stars have not aligned where I've been able to see to watch Chris Doby play in the Empress Ballroom, and it frustrates the bloody life out of me.
So the thing next then, just book to go to the final.
Yeah, next year I'm just gonna have to go for bloody round 1, aren't I? That's what I'm gonna do. I generally like to make sure that I'm there for quarters, semis, final, and then the women's, and then that's my sort of trip. But next year, just a round 1 trip just to make sure that was it. But no, we saw some spectacular moments. Michael Smith's 114. It can't be understated how important that was in the game. For him to just maintain and keep that lead. Some amazing finishing. I still think Chris Doby is the best 170 hitter on the planet. I don't think there's anyone on earth as good at hitting 170s as Chris Doby is. And we did get Trek to 1 tonight. 50% on his doubles, Chris, as well. But there was just a lot. There were far, far too many visits of 57 where he was low on the 20, low on the 19, low on the 18. And I lost count, but there was an awful lot of visits of 57 where all 3 darts were low, and he just couldn't quite get those darts. He peaked in trough because there was moments where the 180s were going in and where he just looked like he looked perfect, but it just wasn't consistent enough through the game, and he just couldn't close that gap. A tough watch for Chris Doby fans, but general analysis was a really, really entertaining game. I would have probably liked to see us going to overtime, just because we haven't done it in the second round. We've not seen overtime played in the second round. We did see a couple in the first round, but it's good because we aren't on tomorrow yet, and we've there's some days this week that we've started this Fallout show the next day. So we're doing pretty well to get on to predictions before we've actually ticked over into midnight. We We haven't got an interview yet from Michael Smith in the back end of our system here. That's probably just because we went live so quickly after that last game. So I will encourage you again to go to our YouTube channel and pick up what Michael had to say about it. And I'm sure his next round meeting against Rob Cross. Just before we go into predictions for tomorrow, a quick shout out to the title sponsors of the tournament, Betfred, but also our sponsors. Where are they? Up there. And our sponsors on the Fallout Bar supporting us all week this week, Betfred. If you are a new Betfred customer, if you haven't used Betfred before, they do have a bit of an offer on that we can tell you about. I've been reminding people all week that you can go to Betfred, sign up for an account, and when you sign up, if you place a bet of 10 English pounds, you'll be rewarded with £50 in free bets. So a very, very good and generous offer from Betfred. All the terms and conditions can be found on their website. And of course, please gamble responsibly, over 18s only, and be gambleaware.org. So just very quickly, I don't think I mentioned it there, the code that you need to put in. So when you sign up with Betfred, the code to get you your £50 in free bets is SUMMER50. So SUMMER50. If you put that in, then they will reward you with some free bets. So, right, quarterfinals. Quarterfinals start tomorrow, and we've got the other side of the draw to what we saw today. So we've got 2 games to go tomorrow. We'll talk through some predictions, Gerwen. As we talk through them, folks, in the chat room, please put your predictions in. Let us know what you think is going to happen. Ooh. Right, so game number 1. It looks like, and I think this is which one that's going to go first, is going to be Ross Smith against James Wade. I'll come to you first, Karen. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, had you asked me at the start of the week if these pair met in the quarterfinals, what I'd predict, I'd have probably said a James Wade win. But I feel like we have seen a different version of Ross Smith this week. The way he's performed against Rock and Price, I don't know. It just seems like, and also what he said after the Gerwen Price match about giving himself a talking to and grabbing himself by the scruff of the neck. I think Ross Smith wins, and obviously Wade will stick around because it's what Wade does. As in, you don't stay at the top of the game for as long as Wade does without being able to stick around in matches. But I think a 16-13 win for Ross Smith with a shed load of 180s in the mix as well.
So I had a quick look. So don't forget, folks, in the chat room, we are playing first to 16 now as well. So just when you're putting your predictions in, that's what we're aiming for, is a first to 16. I had a quick look at the head-to-head, and it's odd, because for 2 players that have held cards for certainly as long, well, James Wade has held a card since potentially before I was born. No, it's not. I'm definitely not that young. But James Wade, but obviously in these 2, obviously always around in majors events, playing all the tour card events. These 2 have met once in the last 5 years, which I think is an odd. It's an odd for players that are around and play as many events as they do is a bit strange. Which was once in the last 5 years. They met last year in October at Players' Championship 27, where Ross Smith won 6-3. And before that was March 2019. So not a lot of history really to go on between these 2. I've picked both of them. David, you're not just having Wade. I'm not putting that on the screen. I expect a score. We're not sitting on fences here. If you're going to put a prediction in, get me a score. I've picked both these players to win all of their games so far, and they've come through for me. So I've picked James Wade twice, and he's won, and I've picked Ross Smith twice, and he's won. However, when I sat down with the boys a few weeks ago, and we talked through the bracket, and I had to pick somebody to win this quarter, who would be the winning quarter finalist, I picked Ross Smith. And because of that, I'm going to stick with my predictions, because my predictions have been, for a change, quite good so far. It's very rare for me. My predictions have been all right. I don't think Wade will make it easy for him, but I don't think I just don't know. It's not about I think. I don't know if James Wade can or will hit the level of scoring required to break the throw and move ahead. He could wade his way through it. We know that James Wade could win this game. We know he's a good enough dart player. But Ross Smith is just so relentless on those 180s. And those 180s can turn legs on their head. You know, if you have a slack visit, if you have a trebleless visit, Ross Smith will just come and just snatch that leg away from you. And he just thieves legs from people with these 180s all the time. And for that reason, I will go for a Ross Smith 16-12 victory. We've got, what have we got in the chat room? Maliki, I haven't read any of these yet. Maliki's gone exactly the same as me. He's gone 16-12. Jack has gone 16-10. Ross Smith. Kevin has gone 16-11. David's gone with Wade, but he hasn't put a score in, so he doesn't make it to the screen without a score. But there are some calls for for James Wade, but without any specific scores. So that is quarterfinal number 1 tomorrow, and quarterfinal number 2 is a game that we saw quite recently. I saw from just meters away at the UK Open in Minehead, where in that game, Dimitri van den Bergh was an 11-10 winner over Luke Humphries. Are you going with a repeat or revenge, Carwin?
I think revenge, hopefully. As in, I don't know. I used to be a big fan of Dimitri van den Bergh, and I feel like he's messing around with his game, and not necessarily the way he throws the darts or anything like that, but his other shenanigans on stage, let's say. And I just feel like, I don't know, I'm going off him quite fast, and I'd much rather hear a Luke Humphries post-match interview personally. I also think Luke Humphries is playing well enough to win it, as in he's so relaxed, and he's, as in, for a world, as in, it's probably been the toughest year for a world number 1 in the fact that all the attention has been on somebody else. As in, usually the world number 1 is the one who makes all the headlines and is covered in flowers and all that jazz. Where this year, obviously, we've come across a certain darting sensation who's still in the headlines. But Luke Humphries still seems relaxed, still composed, still in control of everything. Nothing seems to faze him. And I think it'll be quite close. I'm gonna say overtime, 18-16 Humphries.
Oh, I like that call, because I like anyone that's brave enough to pick an overtime victory. I thought when we watched Dimitri play the other day, I thought that he played the game at a much better pace than we've seen from him in recent times in his game against Johnny Clayton the other day. I suppose your recent going off Dimitri van den Bergh has nothing to do with him knocking a Welshman out of the tournament either, does it? I don't think his...
No, not that bitter.
but I thought it was literally right up until he had match darts that he sort of slowed it down a little bit, and I'm fine with that. Like at that, because at that point, when you're throwing darts, it's match darts. You do what you want for match darts. Go for a walk, have a cig, come back. Do it like for me, like that, because that's not about your opponent. When you're throwing darts for the match, that's got nothing to do with interfering with your opponent's rhythm or anything. That's just about you winning, doing what you need to do to win the game. So I have no problem with that at all. I just think this comes down to form and what each of those players potentially has to offer on stage tomorrow. When Dimitri beat Luke Humphries in the UK Open final earlier this year, Luke Humphries averaged 96. I do not think that Luke Humphries will average 96. I think he will continue playing very, very well. I think he's got a real eye on this trophy. I think he knows that there is some potential for him to continue to make a bit of history and build that legacy that he started to build, and that dominance and that really, really solid position way out in front as the world number one. And I think that just continues to light a fire under Luke Humphries, and I think it's going to be quite big. I'm inclined to go 16-9.
Wow,
is where I think it'll be a big, but and that's not that I don't think Dimitri's going to turn up. I just think Luke Humphries is going to throw big tomorrow. In the chat room, let's have a look what we got. Jack's got Luke winning 16-11. Maliki has got Cool Hand winning 16-12. Kevin's got Humphries 16-9. David's committed. Oh, he's committed. He's gone 13-12. Wade can't win 13-12. It's first to 16. Try again. Have another go. Nobody's picking Dimmy in the chat room. That would be a huge upset. A huge upset. But at that point, wide open, anybody wins.
Yeah, definitely.
Anybody wins. If Luke Humphries falls in the quarterfinals, anybody wins. And we could get a really rogue set of semi-finals if that happens. Great stuff. Well, that pretty much brings us to an end. Only 2 games to predict. It's a bit of a strange one. It feels like not very long when we were doing fallout shows for the World Cup when we had 24 games to get. That was God grief, that was a slog, wasn't it? 24 games to get through on a fallout show.
Luxury 2 matches.
Yeah, talking about predicting 2 is certainly a very different kettle of fish. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Karen, for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure as always.
Enjoy my fun.
Everybody in the chat room, absolutely superb as ever. Thank you for getting involved with your predictions and general chat and banter on how you thought the night went. And again, just a shout out to everybody listening to us on the audio only, who's listening through your podcast supplies. Thank you very much for listening through there. I'm not sure who will be with you for the rest of the week because I'm going on tour. I'm working away. I've got some work to do, and then I'll be in Blackpool. I might appear on various different things while I'm in Blackpool. Who knows? But I'm sure you'll be in good hands for the rest of the week. Thank you very much for those 5 nights that you've all been with me. It's been a pleasure, and enjoy the rest of the Betfred World Matchplay. Thank you very much, everybody, and good night.